Perfect. So we're going to have a bit of a refresher on shadow diagrams because there's been a bit of inconsistency in the shadows, and some of the jobs that we're seeing when they're coming through, there's just a few items being missed, or the way that the shadows are being drawn, they're not complete. So we're just going to go over it one more time just to ensure that we're nailing it 100%. So we're going to be using a live, again, similar to what we did last time, we're going to use a live job as an example. So this is how the shadows looked when they came to my team, when it was issued to us. So we'll look at the shadows, how they looked now versus what they'll look like after we've actually completed them in the training session. Okay. First thing we're going to do is, a lot of the times we're finding that the shadow diagram views are all just sitting with the in the job like this, with all the different views. What we want is we want them all grouped up in a folder called shadows, just so that we can clean up the view, so we're not scrolling as much. So that way, because we're not using the shadows as often. So we'll put the joinery. It cleans up our view. It cleans it up a bit. So that way we just go straight to all our most used plans are here. If we need to, our joinery, we can go straight to our joinery, closer. If we need our shadows or amend our shadows for any reason, we can go to our shadows here. But because we don't use our shadow diagrams that often, we put it in a folder and we just minimize the folder. So you don't have all these additional views here that you don't use, but you just have to constantly scroll through and you're trying to find the correct one. So they're not necessary to have visible all the time. So like we will discuss it, like we went through previously, what you guys have shown here is you guys have shown a 3D layout, show everything as a standard. This is okay to an extent, but what you guys have shown here is you're doing the shadows for the entire job. You're showing the existing and the proposed in the exact same time, which is not what we want to do. We need to do these separately. Because if I show you on the plans that you've got here, let's say if I go to 9 AM, for example, this is my existing. This is my, this is my existing. This is my proposed. But this here should be my existing. But it's drawn as, so it's the same color. It looks exactly like my existing, not my proposed. So I can't tell which shadow is the shadow being cast by the dwelling that we're building and which shadow is being cast by the fence. We can't tell which is which. And that happens when you're doing the shadow at the exact same time. So what we're going to do, instead of doing the 3D, we're going to be using a floor plan. So you can use the ground floor plan, or you can use the elevations plan, but I use the ground floor plan. It's fine. So I make a copy of the ground floor plan, copy of it, and I'll call this existing. Oh, not existing, sorry, proposed. I always start with the proposed. Okay, what you want to show on this, you want to go to your layers. I want to add my roofs. So I don't like the fact that there's so many roof layers, but for now we'll go over the layering system at another time. I just want to see my roofs. Turn that on. Perfect. And then I want to see my earth layer. Show shadow earth. All right. Right now, here, this is where we're encountering a bit of a problem right now. Because as you can see, I'm putting on shadow earth, which is supposed to be the mesh. But what's happening is all this is existing dwellings is what's appearing instead. So I'm going to go back to my proposed. First, we'll go to the 3D and we'll look at the drawing that's actually being drawn. So we're just going to rotate. And as you can see here, where there are no walls, so the shadows that are actually being cast is not accurate because the dwelling that we're using, we're only casting the shadow from the roof, not from the walls. There are no walls to the dwelling. All the roofs for the existing dwellings are not attached to the walls. So the shadows being cast by the existing dwellings is also not accurate. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete this 3D and we're going to start from scratch. We'll start by going Control L, let go, hide all. So I'm just going to go through and go back to your shadow layer, shadow earth, shadow fence, shadow general. No existing. So I've got, so there's so many, look how many layers for shadows there are. There's a lot of them. We don't need this many. So for this one here, delete that shadows earth. So I'm not going to go through and delete the layers. I'll tell you which layers we should have because there's too many layers. So if you look at how many layers for shadows, we've got 10 a.m., we've got 2 9 a.m.s, we've got 2 3 p.m.s, we've got 2 12 p.m.s. We've actually got 3 3 p.m.s. So there's so many layers. And if, for instance, we're moving things on layers or we're doing some changes, someone might accidentally put it on the wrong layer. All right, so we'll turn on our shadow earth, that one, turn it on, and then we'll delete select all, shadow earth. We're going to delete all the existing, we're going to redraw it from scratch. All right. Back to the proposed. We're going to go back and we'll turn on our roofs again. Okay, so our roofs are turned on. I'm going to get my current window settings. Okay. Now, in the reference, you all, I believe, should have the reference file I sent out with the shadow reference file, correct? That I sent out after the last training session. In this reference file, if you go to existing ground floor, it'll have all the items that you need on all the layers. So if I go to my layers here, Control L, go down to where the shadows are. I've got a layer for shadow existing, one for shadow earth, 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 12 p.m., 1 p.m., and 2 p.m. In your job, you should already have 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. already and 12 p.m. already. But there's no double ups, there's no multiples of all the layers. We've got everything we need. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy Earth from here. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to drag this and move it onto my other monitor. And I'm going to put it, I'm going to paste my Earth. And you want to set it to shadow Earth. Shadow Earth. Turn on your shadow Earth layer. That's it. So now our existing shadow, what we need for our existing shadows is all set up. We don't need any more than that. Now we're going to do is for our proposed shadow. We're going to make a copy of our proposed, not a proposed, sorry, our existing shadows. I'm going to go existing now. What I like to do is I like to start off fresh. So I like to hide all layers, deselect. The only layer I want to see is shadow existing, which is that one right there. Click OK. Settings. Okay, currently settings. I don't want to have the Earth just yet. And then from my reference file, so you've already got a fence here, so that's fine. We'll keep that fence as is for now. Because it's already on the correct layer, shadow existing, that's fine. So from my reference file, I'm going to copy the existing dwellings from the neighboring property. Yeah, here we go. So there's the copied across. I'll copy it across the one roof, one wall, and one slab. All right. First thing we do is we turn on our site plan, we put it in as trace reference. If it's too light and you can't really see much and you're struggling to see what the trace reference, in ArchiCAD, if you go to your trace reference, you can just increase the intensity of it so you can actually see through it. So let's just increase it a bit. There we go. So first thing I like to start off with is the slab. So I always start with the slab. Again, we're not building the next door house, so we're just being quick and we're making it nice and quick. Just because we want to be able to get the what we need. So for these ones here, this house here, it's at frame stage, so we don't need to worry about this one because it doesn't have, this house isn't built, so we don't need to get shadows for this one. These ones we will. So this one we will. This one will go straight up. This one, same scenario. I don't need it for this one because it's at frame stage. When it's at frame stage or lockup, that means the house is not built yet, so we don't need to get the shadows for it yet. All right, now this house here. All right, Now that I've got all the 3 slabs that I need, turn my trace reference off. All right, I can just put my walls in now. Okay, I'm not too fussed about this wall here or this wall here, because whatever shadow gets cast from here, we're not actually going to get, because this side here and this side here is not going to affect anything that we're trying to achieve on our job. So what we're going to do now is do the roof. And then I'm just going to edit the roof plan just so it's a bit more accurate for what this house is supposed to actually look like. So I'm not fast. I'm just trying to get the roof to look accurate, and I'll show you why this isn't going to matter when I come to copy the shadows. I'll show you why this here is fine. So that's it. So these are all single stories, so that's fine. If let's say any of these are a double story, this wall is set for a single story at 2740 high. If we're doing if the adjoining property is a double story, then I will have to do the calculation. So I'll go, okay, I'll go to my calculator. So I'll go 2740, which is our ceiling height for our ground floor, plus 319, which is the subfloor, which on all our double stories, has our subfloor between ground floor and first floor, plus, and then we go 2740 to the first floor. We do this as like the highest that the neighbor can possibly go, equals 5799. So then I go, all right, this wall will be 5799. And then for the ceiling, for the roof, this will be 5799. So now this wall and this roof are now set up for a double story. And we don't have a double, so we can get rid of these ones now. Okay. So now we look at our trace reference. We go back and we put on our. Yep. So now we'll go back and we'll put our trace reference on our site plan again. So we'll look at our fence. So this wall will be here. So I always draw the fence on the boundary line. So the fence will be sitting on the neighbor's block, not our block, when I'm drawing the shadows, just because it helps improve our shadows a bit. There we go. Okay. So we know that there will also be a fence here. There's going to be a fence here for this neighbor. We'll also have a fence here. We'll have a fence between these two neighbours. There'll be a fence here. And there'll also be a fence here as well. This fence will continue all the way down. To there. So there we go. Now we have our drawing space all modeled. Our existing shadows and our proposed shadows are all modeled. They're all on the right layer. So we go existing. Control my existing, forget propose. It shows my proposed. So first thing we're going to do is 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, perfect. So first thing we're going to do, we're just going to delete. So this is another item. So when I look at, if I'm, let's say I have to delete and redo the shadows because we got a new survey with adjoining properties, or we have to check, we're restarting the house and I have to redo the shadows. These shadows aren't grouped. So it's more difficult, it's more time consuming, or it's an additional step to select the shadows. I'm just going to go through and delete the shadows that are already here. There we go. Shadows are now done. All right. So now we're going to set up our to set up our shadows and our north points. So similar to how we had it before. We have to have it to the in parallel settings, or if you go to view, 3D view options. Projection settings, or Control Shift F3, the shortcut Control Shift F3. You go to this setting here. You want it set to perspective settings. Or you want to set to top view, and you want your camera straight down below. So what will end up being is your angle. Your angle will be 0. Your X will be 0. Your Y will be 90 degrees, and your Z will be 0. And then for your sun position, we set it to date and time. So we always start at September 22nd, and we'll go at 9 a.m. Click OK. So then location settings, I believe this already has the location. Perfect. You've already put the location settings in, which is good. If you don't know how in 25, right click in project map Up the top, right click, location settings. This little symbol here is imports. And then you'll import your Melbourne sun shadow file. Open. Okay, it imports the location settings. Then you'll go to the repeat, you'll go to set project north. Go down to your north points. Select the first selection will be the center of your north point. Your second selection will be the direction of north. There we go. So now we've set our location, our project north, we've set up our 3D models, our project space. We're all set up to now actually start getting our shadows. For your shadows, you want to set your 3D view options to basic vectorial. So just the basic. Okay. So you go down to proposed. So I always do proposed first, and then I do the existing after. So proposed. Control F5 to go into 3D space. Use the marquee tool. To a big marquee. Then you'll go Control C, copy. This will pop up. So your construction elements, you want none. For shadows, you want polygons. You want overlapping polygons. And then you want frameless. So this is the settings you want when you're copying your shadows. Click OK. 9 AM. Then we're going to paste. Similar to what I went through last one, paste it, select anywhere else. Then we're going to Control Z to undo. Then the Control Shift Z to redo, so that we can paste it and reselect it at the same time. Control Shift T to go to your edit selection settings. We're going to change our proposed, is always to color 1. So the gray, which is number 1. And we set it to shadow 9 AM. And then the fill type is 25%. And then transparent. Then you'll go to edit, reshape, fill consolidation, and click OK. What it does is, so if I zoom in, if I Control Z, see that line? These are 2 different fills. When you go to edit, reshape, fill consolidation, and click OK. And just what it does is any 2 fills that are exactly the same that are touching each other, it joins them into one fill. It just merges the fills together. Turn on your border and make it colorful. And the last item is to group it. Very important. Done. First shadow done. And then basically once you've done that, you go back to go back, Control Shift F3, and then we just keep going, repeating the step, changing the hour, keep repeating the steps. If anyone has any questions about any of the steps I'm doing, please feel free to ask questions, slow me down. If you don't understand any of the steps or anything, please let me know. So once you start doing it once, it becomes a habit, and you start doing it over and over, because you're doing the exact same step over and over. You keep repeating itself. So once we're done with the shadows, there's just a couple little items on how to just improve the quality of the shadows that I'll show you. It's not wrong, so you're not doing it wrong. It's just to make the consistency, it's just to improve consistency on the plans, and to take the plan quality to the next step. Sorry. And has anyone had any problems doing shadows in 25 since the moving from 18 to 25? No issues with the shadows in 25?
No, not yet, Andrew, not yet.
Not yet, perfect. Because I think some of my team have had a bit of issue with getting the settings changed because the settings have changed from 18 to 25 regarding the viewports. So I'll show you which setting has changed. So these settings here have changed, the 3D view settings. So some jobs won't have set up with basic vectorial. The naming might be slightly different here, but it'll always be one of these settings here. It'll always be one of the basic ones. It won't be one of the ones with simple shadings or the vectorial. It'll be the very basic one that you'll use for the shadows. One more shadow, and then we should be done with the proposed. Okay, so that's our existing now. It's all done. So now we'll start getting our proposed. So once I get the first shadow, you'll understand why I'm not too fussed about how this section looks, about how these two sides look. So we'll do the same thing. I always start with 9 AM. Yeah, we'll start with 9 AM. So what I'm going to do for my shadow, what happens is you're taking the full shadow, you're copying, and you're usually copying these end bits, which aren't necessary and actually incorrect because they're not actually accurate shadows for what's actually on site. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to capture the shadows only there. I'm going to cut this shadow short, and I'm going to cut this shadow short. I'm going to go Control C. And when I put it down, you'll see exactly why when I put it down here. I'm going to go paste. Same thing. All right. For existing shadows, it's always color number 2, or the purple color, which is number 2. Shadow 9 AM. And then it's set to masonry block. The backing is always transparent. Same scenario, edit, reshape, fill consolidation. Number 4, group. Okay. You can start seeing why doesn't bother me what this side looks like, because nowhere that will our shadow affect this end here. Even on this side here, this dwelling is going to be straight all the way down. So you're going to have shadows cast across here. We don't care, and we don't need to know what's happening over here. So I'm just cutting the shadow off right there. So right there, that's all I need to know. And as you can see, we can clearly see what is our shadow and what is the neighbor's shadow, because the white background is our neighbor's. I can see our shadow because our shadow is the grayed out color, but then I can see what is overlapping, the two overlapping shadows on top of each other. You can see the difference between the two. Right. And let's go do the same thing over and over. Do you find that doing it, they're exactly the same The proposed, the existing, they're exactly the same. The only difference between the two is the color and the fill type. So once you've done it once, you'll start getting the hang of it, and you'll find that you get much quicker with every shadow that you do. You get much more quicker with everyone. Nearly there. Apologies for the delay. Okay. All right, last shadow. All right, done. So now our shadows are all drawn. So now we'll start putting them on into our layout. So as you can, if you can see there, you see how the site shifts around the page. It's constantly moving around the page. So when I go to the see how your corner of side just keeps shifting around the page. It's not wrong. There's nothing wrong about that. The plans are still showing shadows, even though the shadows are wrong, but the plans are still showing the shadows. But it's just shifting around the page. So it's not very consistent. It's not the quality that we want to produce. So what I prefer to have to happen with the shadows. So we'll delete these views. All right, so what I'll do is I'll copy the 9 a.m. and I'll just paste it in all of them. So that's why. All right, so now that I've put 9 a.m., I'll go to 10 a.m., right click, to select the view, go right click, go to link drawings 2. You can extend this out and relink it to 10 a.m. And you go back and you go through all of them. And there's one thing that I forgot to, so you'll see it in a moment when I go back to 9 a.m. First to again. So if I go back to 9 a.m., so as you recall, we deleted all these shadows, and yet this view is still here. That's because it's set to manual update. You want to have to set to automatically update. Right click, just update. There we go. Now it's updated. Perfect. So then go to our publisher set. I'm just going to put a temporary location for it. And then I'll publish the plans. And then we'll have a look at the difference between the two different shadow plans. And so we can see where the inconsistency between them and what the problem with drawing the roofs, drawing the shadows without the walls, or drawing it with the roof floating above the wall, what issues that causes with the shadows. Okay, so this is the 9 a.m. shadow for the existing, for the old, for what it was previously. This dwelling had no eaves, so the shadow's been cast way off the dwelling, where we should have a shadow casting off our dwelling in this direction. We should have a shadow casting off like this because of our wall. This is just our roof. Whereas I compare it to the 9 AM to the, and also this is casting in the wrong direction, 9 AM here. There we go. We should have the shadow casting like that. When I compare it to our one, it shows the actual wall shadow. There's the PR for the alfresco. Even the adjoining dwellings, this has no eaves. Showing the fence, you can tell that here we can't tell what's existing dwelling, what's fence shadow. Here, you can clearly tell. All right, this is the grey one is existing. The hatched one is the existing dwelling, and this is a proposed. So I can say that, okay, the existing shadow ends right there, and we're just casting just past it. On this one, when you switch between the different pages, your site plan shifts around the page, whereas on this one, only your site plan stays as is, and your shadow shifts across the page. It looks much more presentable, easier to read, so you can follow the story. The one thing that it's not wrong, but we also want to try and keep consistent, is see how the text jumps around. We want to try and have this in the same spot on all the drawings, so that when we shift across the page, this doesn't move around. Your 9 AM, your shadow diagram text just stays in the same spot, and the only thing that'll move around will be your shadows. Okay, so it's relatively easy and quick to do. It just takes long. Explaining and doing it at the same time takes a while, but if you're just focusing on getting the shadows done, it is relatively quick to do. And if you build up your own reference file of the existing dwelling models, you'll be able to just copy, paste, and quickly mock up the shadows relatively quickly. I think that's it. I think that's all I'll cover with the shadows. In the next couple of days, I'll be sending you all a new a document that you'll need to that you'll follow as we're adjusting our line types and our line weights for our site plans, particularly when our servers are being placed on. So we have sent. We're standardizing how our line types, what our site plan looks like. So these general notes, the small lot notes, all the developer items, we're putting those on the site plan again. We're taking them off the general notes page and we're putting them on the site plan. Mainly because the developer, when we apply for a developer approval, the developer's request for these notes to be placed on the site plan. So these notes here will be placed on the site plan just like this. Instead of the general notes page. And then I'll send you a document that lays out the outlines, the line types, and the line weights for what colors and the line weights and everything for when you're placing a survey. So that the survey looks the same way on all the jobs. So we're trying to have pretty much have our plans all look in the same fashion, the same line type, the same consistency across the board. So I'll send this through to you, hopefully within the next few days. If you have any questions regarding the shadow diagram or this document after I send it through, please send me through any emails. Send me through emails, and I'll endeavour to get back to you as soon as I can. If you have any concerns or if you have any questions or anything you want me to cover in a training session, please get in contact with me and let me know anything in particular, be it joinery, 8 Homes joinery, Urban Edge joinery, any facades that you're unsure on how to draw, you want me to go over how to draw the facades, sightings, res code, anything at all, anything and everything you want training on or you want assistance on, please let me know, and I will prepare some training material, and we'll have a session on it so that we can go over it. Okay?
Yes, Andrew.
Perfect. All right, everyone. Have a great day and enjoy the rest of your week.
Yeah, thank you for taking time for us
No
today.
problem. All right. See you soon. Have a good one.
Yeah. Oh,